Hey guys, this is a brief tutorial on the alternate plate cost calculator. This is our menu analysis summary. So I just want to take a couple of minutes and walk you through the best way to complete this. Now, this type of plate cost analysis is ideal for someone who is vending boxed, catered type meals to maybe a Head Start program or to an SFSP program over the summer. So we're really looking at vended meals, not necessarily an offer versus serve model. That's going to make it a little more complicated to get your menu cost out. So we're just looking at boxed meals that we're catering out to another organization. So I want to start off first by looking at the tabs along the bottom. Remember that there are a comprehensive set of instructions as the first tab on all of these plate cost calculators. Please do read through those. It tells you what to grab before you get started, and it'll walk you through any questions that you might have. If you do see anything in there that seems confusing or you feel like is an error, please reach out to us and let us know. We want to make those corrections. So the next tab over is the summary analysis, and this is where we'll get started. So anything within this page that is yellow is something that we are anticipating for you to put information in. So we'll start off at the top here at lunch. There's an indirect cost rate and a meals per labor hour. The best place to grab those two pieces of information is in your last completed CMPAR. Both of those pieces will be there. If your school does not do indirect cost rate, you would just put a 0 there. Um, your meals per labor hour again from your CMP AR report. If you're doing this specifically at one school site and you don't want to use the meals per labor hour across your entire district, you can do that. You just need to make note that you're doing it just for the one school site that's catering the meals. In these yellow boxes, we're looking at minimum and maximum rate of pay for the workers who are involved in the preparation of the program. So if your manager is involved in getting the meals together, the manager's rate of pay needs to be in there as the maximum rate. Minimum rate's probably going to be $15 across the board. At SNAC, we're well aware that it's probably not your managers who are putting together your snacks each day. So that's why we wanted to make the maximum and minimum rate of pay specific to the individual type of meal service, because I know you put different people on at different times. But again, just looking at of the people who are involved in the preparation of the meals, what's the lowest rate of pay, what's the highest rate of pay, and we're going to pull that average out there. And then the last yellow box across the bottom here is looking at how many menus will you cycle through. So you might have for a breakfast service, you might have an A and a B. So that would be 2 cycled menus. For lunch, you might run off a month and then you'll repeat yourself. So that would be 4. For snack, you might do the same thing every week. So that would be 1. In the example that I'm going to show you, I'm just doing 1 for each. But honestly, each of those numbers can be different. It's just according to the menu planner and how many times you cycle through. This also goes along the bottom here. So if we're saying that we have 1 week of cycled menus, this tab is all that we'll have for our snack menu. As we move through the workbook later on, there's a week 2 snack, a week 3 snack. It goes all the way up to, I believe, week 6 snack. You'll just leave those worksheets blank. You won't be able to delete them. You don't need to put zeros in. Just leave them blank and it won't calculate towards anything. Again, if you've got breakfast and you do week 1 and week 2 for breakfast, you'll fill out that information in each of those tabs and leave the rest blank. Fill in your lunch. If you've got 4 lunch, put 4 different menus in there. So let's look at our menus here. So this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to make my screen just a little bit smaller. But you're just going to go through and we're looking to get the individual unit cost for the items that you're putting together in that meal. So you're just going to be looking at our grocery buying guide, looking at quantity, that are in the case and what the case cost, and then we're going to break it down to an individual serving size. You'll do that with your produce items, your milk as well, but you're just looking at individual costs there, and then this green box is going to total for you. So anything that's in green is going to auto-populate. So you're going to do that for the full week, and it gives you your weekly food cost. You can also start to see one of the things I like about this plate cost calculator. If you're seeing that your costs are higher on specific days, that's where you can make your adjustments. You can see Thursday and Monday are my high days. I'm serving cereal, a 2-ounce cereal on those days. So if I'm looking to cut some costs, it's really easy for me to identify there. Maybe I want to drop down to a 1-ounce, depending on my audience. I might want to switch to a whole different product, but I can really see where those costs are broken down. The next thing that you'll do is just say, over the course of the week, how many meals did you prepare? So in this example, I'm saying that we have 100 meals every day. It's 5 days, so there are 500 meals that were served. Based on the information that we plugged in from the summary analysis, it's going to come back here and it's going to do all of the other calculations for me. Okay, so I can look now and see it's $1.54 for food, my labor cost, my indirect cost, and then my total plate cost. So here's the issue, and we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. I'm at $3.39 per plate, and my breakfast reimbursement is not that high. Okay, so if I've got a couple more cycles of breakfast, I'd want to finish out those breakfast cycles to see where was my average. But already I'm kind of on alert because my breakfast plate cost seems a little high. First action is to get the all the weeks average together, and then I'm going to start looking at where I can make some adjustments if needed. Okay, let's look at what a lunch one looks like. Again, very much the same. You're going to get all your individual items that are going in the meal and the individual cost associated with them. Totals across the week. Again, you can see your high days. You might be able to go back and look and see what adjustments will be made. Weekly average. I'm doing 500 meals again. This would be the same contract. Maybe it's for a Head Start. I'm doing 100 meals for breakfast and 100 meals for lunch. So lunch across the week would be 500. Then all of those totaled in get me to $3.58 for my plate cost. So I'm gonna breathe a little bit easier right now because although my breakfast plate cost was high, my lunch one is lower than reimbursement. So when I'm looking at that Head Start program or that summer program, collectively between the two meals, they're coming out on the better end. They're still paying less than what they're getting for in reimbursement. So let's go back to that summary analysis page and that'll show you again. So my breakfast plate cost at $3.39, my lunch at $3.58. So I'm able to see there collectively, those are under the reimbursement rate. Now, here's the reason for doing a plate cost is it protects us both ways, not only us, but the people that we're catering to. As a nonprofit entity, we're not looking to make money whenever we're vending meals to other child nutrition programs. If you're going to cater a meal to a PTA function outside of school, do your thing, cover your costs, make it a fundraiser type event for your program. But when we're vending to other child nutrition programs, Head Start, Summer, things like that, we really need to honor what the actual costs are. So we cannot charge less than $3.39 for breakfast at this menu. Now, if I make adjustments to the menu, then that's going to bring my price down. But right now, given this calculation, I need to charge my summer program, my Head Start, I need to charge them $3.39. I also need to look at my lunch, and I can charge them only $3.58. That's based on the menu that I created for that plate cost calculation. Now I could go again and adjust the menu and even bump up some of the products or bump up some of the quantity and increase my plate cost because I'm well below reimbursement here by a dollar, almost 10 cents. So I've got some wiggle room there. But once I get to my final menu and it gives me that cost, that is the cost that needs to be contracted out. Okay, I didn't go over snack, but it's exactly the same way as the others. The only tab that I didn't talk about here is this recipe calculation tab. If you're ever doing any scratch based items or any items where you're preparing, it's not just a package or a one item pull and put into the clamshell. This is where you're going to need to find out based on all the ingredients and the recipe yield. You'll find out what the plate cost is. So the example I have listed there is a chicken Alfredo dish with the ingredients listed. 50 yield, it costs $1.18 per plate to do chicken Alfredo. I will encourage you that you'll see that your scratch items tend to have a lower plate cost than your prepackaged ones. So if you're looking to cut some of your costs, that might be a spot for you to look to do that. Again, when you get to your totals and you're set on your menu, this is how you will determine your MOUs or your MOAs with your vended meals to other child nutrition programs. Don't forget to look at the instructions tab. If you've got any other questions, otherwise you could email Stephen Rylant or myself. I'm Susanna Yoder. Thank you for being with me for this training video.